Friday the 28th of September 2013. The rate is 5.57 yuan to the Australian dollar. Now I'm heading to the Forbidden Palace again. Suddenly fountain show. To the beat of some revolutionary song. Big Palace. Across the road is actually Parliament House and Tian'anmen Square. Tian'anmen Square now. Massive area. It's also a location. Parliament House, Forbidden City. And the National Museum. So I'm now standing on Tian'anmen Square, which is opposite Forbidden Palace. And this is where the new republic was proclaimed by Chairman Mao on the 1st of October 1949. And this is looking down Tian'anmen Square, and that in the background is part of the preparations for the celebrations on the October 1st. It's the biggest in the world, and next to Tian'anmen Square is the National Museum. Just to show everyone it's in the 21st century, at the end of Tian'anmen Square is this monstrous screen, about 50 metres long, with another one alongside it, over there. So here we are in Beijing, Tian'anmen Square. If we look in the distance here, this is the People's Parliament, and then where we just were, the Forbidden City. It is much bigger than I thought because I was only looking half of it. And this is monument to the People's Heroes. And in the distance is Beijing Museum. And next to Tian'anmen Square is the National Museum, which is the largest museum in all of Asia. So I'll get to see that in the next couple of days. And at the end of Tian'anmen Square is a mausoleum which contains Chairman Mao's body. And a sculpture here showing the People's Heroes. So this shows the length of Tian'anmen Square. There's Mao's mausoleum at one end, and then the monument in the centre, museum in the background, and looking down the length of Tian'anmen Square to the Forbidden City at the end. There's the Forbidden City, called the Forbidden City because commoners were forbidden to enter up until 1925, and now it's called a museum. However, the Chinese still refer to it as the Forbidden City. Just found out that Chairman Mao stood here in front of the Forbidden Palace to proclaim the Republic, and on the left hand side the sign says "Long live the Chinese Republic," and on the right hand side "Long live the unity of peoples of the world," or words to that effect. Just entering the Emperor's ancestral temple, which is part of the Forbidden City. Just come inside the entry to Forbidden Palace. This of course was forbidden to the public. The Forbidden City was home to 24 emperors. It occupies over 200 acres and was construction started in 1406. and the public wasn't allowed to enter until 1911. Over 100,000 craftsmen to be used in constructing the Forbidden City. And this is the entrance to the Forbidden City with the portrait of Mao, and I'm sitting inside the Forbidden City, just on some benches here. It's 60 yuan to enter. I'm just about to enter. As you can see, there's a moat surrounding the Forbidden City. It's also called the Temple Palace. Outside the wall is a 52-metre wide moat around the Forbidden City. Part of the moat in the wall that surrounds the palace. It has a large wall about 10 metres high, just below that building there. This is the Meridian Gate, or the front gate, entrance into the Forbidden City.
Main entry is the Wumen, or Meridian Gate, leading into the spectacular outer court with its 5 marble bridges that cross the man-made Golden River. The Forbidden City is 10 times the size of Versailles.
This is the largest palace complex in the world, and not just the largest palace complex that survives, but the largest palace complex built at any time in history.
I wouldn't mind having one of these angry lions at the entrance to our place. There were some big squares in Turkey, but nothing on the scale of this.
Wonder of the medieval world, and the biggest wooden structure on Earth.
It's the largest complex of palace buildings anywhere in the world.
Home to China's emperors, a place of staggering wealth and power, filled with dazzling treasures.
Only the emperor could pass along the central line.
These huge copper and iron vats were used as a firefighting equipment, filled them with water and used if they were putting fires in the palace. And in winter they used to cover them with blankets to stop the water from freezing.
For nearly 600 years, Beijing's vast Forbidden City has suffered from a recurring threat: fire. Caused by accidents or lightning strikes. The grand wooden hall of Supreme Harmony has burned down numerous times.
It's actually been rebuilt 7 times, and each time it gets rebuilt. It gets rebuilt with the technology of the day.
Rebuilding and restoring the Forbidden City remains an ongoing task. Today, work is being carried out on the gates, courtyards, walls.
From here we can also get a good idea of how vast this one square is. It's only a small part of the palace, just one of the squares. this section here, and then we go down here through a section of the wall. Instead of leaving, I think I'll go to one of the outer sections. We're in the intersection of the palace. The outer section has the wall and the moat. I'll see if I can get down there. Not many people in this bottom section. And I found some emperors and some empresses or dowagers.
Excuse me, one like this.
This iron gate was constructed in 1420. It would be easy to get lost in this palace, or complex of palaces. I'm trying to get to the outer wall, but it seems to be blocked off. I'm now located up in this area here, which has its own square. The colour of the walls is interesting because it's very similar to the colour of the walls in Marrakesh. I've been here for over an hour and it's quite difficult to find a way around, but I think I found the entrance to the outer wall. I think it's through these gates here. And this is the view of the palace from outside. You get no idea of how complicated it is inside, what a maze of buildings it is, and how big the squares are, and how wonderful the architecture is inside. And this is a wall similar to the one that I saw in the Beijing Park yesterday. An Iron Dragon wall. This one was built in 1773 and is nearly 30 metres long. All the palaces have a name. This one's called the Palace of Heavenly Purity. This is one of the 307 copper vats found throughout the city. This is a massive city. To give you an idea, if you had a 4-bedroom house, then the Grand Palace in Bangkok would occupy just one size of one toilet. And the house the size of this Imperial Palace. This is just one small section. You can see how large it is. Must have been a lot of people who lived here at different stages. It was the home of 24 different imperial rulers or emperors. This is an Imperial Huton or Imperial Laneway. A lot fancier than the one where I'm living. Amazing how intricate all the carving is. That part is very similar to the Grand Palace in Bangkok. But on a scale level, Grand Palace is tiny compared to this place. This is the Forbidden City or the Imperial Palace. I'm now at the northern end of the complex of the Forbidden City, which really is a city. It's massive in size. And this is the Imperial Garden. This is about 10% of the garden. It's common for the Chinese to have jagged rocks like these in their garden. It's about 10 metres high. And were brought here to form part of the garden, and just below the garden is a little pond, and then a square pavilion. This pavilion is 430 years old, built in 1583. Finally heading out. We're only allowed to walk one way from south up to north, and it's taken me just over 3 hours to do that walk through this Forbidden City. And here's the exit, another one of those huge iron gates, around 400 years old. It's not just one gate, but it's a series of gates we have to walk through to get out of this place. And finally, when you go through the set of the gates, you come to the outside perimeter, and here's a 50-metre wide and nearly 4-kilometre long canal that surrounds the palace. You've got to pay for everything in China, or even to go into the parks. This one's called the Jingcheng Park, but Fortunately, it wasn't very expensive, only about 30 cents to get in, and I assume the money's used to maintain the park. Here's a beautiful arrangement here. For a flat city, there seems to be steps everywhere. Just heading up to the goat on the top of the hill here to get a view over Beijing. 242 steps later, I'm at the Wanchun Temple, top of the hill. And on a hazy day, I'm looking over the Forbidden City, or the Imperial Palace, also known. Can't see very well. Can't see the moat going around it there. Corner there. And in the centre, you can see the entrance. And people are just leaving. This is the northern end. We look at the sun in the south because we're in the northern hemisphere. It takes a little bit to get used to when you're used to looking at the sun in the north. Here it is. Well over 200 acres of temple complex. This is how it looks on a clear day. And the top of the hill is a big Buddha overlooking the Forbidden City.
The development of his pleasure palace was short-lived. In 1424, just 4 years after its completion, the emperor died whilst on campaign.
In his last years, he still was determined, against opposition of his officials, to go out and fight the wars. And he was brought here to be buried in great pomp and circumstance.
Yongle was laid to rest at this tranquil mountainside near Beijing. This magnificent hall remains as he built it. It stands as a symbol of Ming architectural genius and the 22-year reign in which he changed China forever.
The legacy of Yongle, on the one hand, is the physical legacy, the great forbidden city that we see today. But on the other hand, it was his establishment of the foundations of the empire that has survived down to this day.
For nearly 500 years after Yongle's death, just 23 other emperors ruled China from the Forbidden City. Until the last emperor, the boy Pu Yi, abdicated in 1912 during a nationalist revolution. He ended his days tending the palace gardens. In 1925, a palace once forbidden to all opened its doors to the public, became medieval China's greatest creation.